Welcome to Linking Into Sales with Martin Brossman,
Greg Hyer,
and Elyse Archer.
Excellent.
Yes.
We got a very exciting show and a guest here. We're going to mention a few things first.
Yep.
And then we'll move into our guest that we have been looking forward to for quite a while.
Absolutely. So, again, welcome to episode number 94 of the Social Selling Podcast by Linking Into Sales. First, let's get started with just a couple little news items. First, we want to say welcome to Liam Halpin to LinkedIn in particular. He's over in LinkedIn Ireland, and he is the new head of sales solutions for EMEA, which is the Europe, Middle East, and Asia market over there. But anyways, he comes from Dell, and he's got some pretty interesting experience, so we should see some interesting things come out of that team in Ireland. But if you'd like to learn a little bit more about him, go check the show notes. Look for episode 94, and we'll provide a link over to the Irish Times. They might give you a pint while you're out there, and then read up on him. Second little tidbit of news, Elyse, have you heard about this little hack that may have happened back in 2012?
I don't know.
She's suspicious of that. She knows it.
All right, so back in 2012, LinkedIn was hacked, and about 112 million usernames, passwords, unique IDs were actually stolen by some rogue attack group, or I don't know. But basically, anyways, the list, now it's 2016, and the list of those 112 million contacts have ended up on the dark web.
Yep.
All right.
For sale for Bitcoin.
Yeah, for Bitcoin, but basically the Bitcoin amount came out to about $2,500 for the list. Now, the marketer in me says,
hey, watch it.
Whoa,
No,
all right, no, stay away from that. All right, but anyways, so this actually, if you had not changed, first of all, this only affected accounts that were created in 2012 or sooner.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, sooner or later. I don't know, it affected us because we've been on it since, 2006, and no, you were on
2004.
And I was on 2007. Elyse, when did you join LinkedIn?
I think I was late to the game. I was 08.
It's all right. You're busy closing sales in the real world.
That's right, 2008, that's good.
I was like in high school, guys.
That's right.
Wow, all right. Just, hit us in the gut.
Thanks. Yeah. I'm proud of it. I'm the old guy.
But anyways, if you had joined LinkedIn after 2012, you're fine. But if you hadn't changed your password since 2012, LinkedIn made you do it. So they went ahead and reset your password. What also was at risk is the fact that your email address is out there. So if you've been getting some funny emails or something like that, just kind of be aware that that might have been where it came from, because I'm sure a bunch of people went out and bought that list considering the price.
Yeah.
But anyways, we created a video to show you how to do two-step verification login. Which basically is you go out to LinkedIn, you put in your username, your password, you get a text message, you enter in that number, and bang, you're into your account. So if you enter the wrong number, you won't be able to log in. We'll have a video, a link to that into the show notes as well. Just go out to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/linkingsales, where you're maybe watching this podcast, and check out that tutorial. It takes about 5 minutes or so. Actually, it takes less to set up, but our tutorial is about a little less than 5 minutes. But just check it out. Protect your account. Make sure that your data is protected in there. We have a couple additional little suggestions in there too. Yeah,
and the bottom line is, if someone has your email, your password, and your phone, you have bigger problems.
Exactly. Very much so. And also, kind of keep in mind too that these social networks do have, most of them have some sort of two-step verification to log into your account. I use it on Twitter. I know Facebook has it. So take a look at some of these social networks and start looking at protecting your account, especially since they kind of make it easy when they integrate the mobile app in with the desktop app. So,
and follow a YouTube channel. We're going to roll out many tutorials on that.
Yep, very much. So let's talk about our sponsor.
Yes, absolutely. We're here at NC State's Technology Training Solutions, the place to go for technology training. We offer 2 courses. I offer a course with Karen called Social Media Management Certificate Program. Greg and I together offer Linking Into Sales, a course on social selling with LinkedIn, as well as Excel, paid per click, mobile development, professional photography, everything here in wonderful classrooms with computers in the Raleigh area across from NC State in the McKinnon Center. So we're in that room now on the wonderful high-speed internet wireless they have here that's working pretty good.
Yeah.
And we're very grateful for them. Please go to our site. linkingintosales.com, and then the following is in all caps /NCSUTTS, NCSUTTS, and you will learn more about what state has to offer that we have there. So check it out.
All right. So again, thanks very much to our sponsor. And let's get to our guest.
Yes.
Our guest comes to us from Nashville, Tennessee. He also has an office up in Boston. We might hear a little bit more about that. But Drew DeAugustino, is that right?
Close enough.
No, you say. All right,
you got to say it. I'm usually the one that botches the names. Go ahead, Drew. Your pronunciation.
It's DeAugustino.
DeAugustino. Sorry, I missed the. Okay, all right, very good. I won't mess it up again. So we'll just stick to Drew for now. But Drew comes from. He works at actually the founder and CEO over at Crystal Knows, and you may have heard us actually talk about it on some previous episodes. Martin and I have been using it. I know I think we got Elyse on board with using it too. We were kind of amazed at how awesome this application is, but we want him to kind of tell us a little bit more about it and how it can be extremely helpful for anyone who's in a sales role or just trying to really understand the personality of the person where they're sending a message to. So Drew, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
Drew, anything else you wanted to throw in the introduction we missed other than the king of the business there?
Yeah. No, I mean, that pretty much sums it up. I'm the founder here. Do a lot of different things. So I think it kind of encompasses all of it.
Sounds good. Why don't we begin with just a very basic definition of what Crystal Know is? And if you wouldn't mind, Drew, giving your definition of it from the horse's mouth, I guess, or the king's mouth.
The horse, yeah, probably more like a horse. I mean, so Crystal is the largest and most accurate open personality database in the world. And we help people communicate more effectively by using that personality data.
I'm going to start by telling a story of seeing it. You're very generous and you give a nice intro, start out so you can get a feel of it before you pay for it. I always like that. And I was in Washington, D.C. with a friend that goes up to help take care of my mother. We're in a coffee shop, and he is finishing up a book, and there was someone sitting right next to us that fit the perfect demographics of someone to network with. After went over and we spoke to them, said hello. They go, we're interested in your book and everything else. Then we were sitting down for him to write an email, and I looked him up on Crystal Knows, and I said, well, in the email, you really need to understand he wants to get to the point directly. And I start rattling this stuff up, and he goes, where are you getting this from? This actually seems to make sense from our short conversation with him. And I said, I'm getting it from Crystal Knows. And he said, well, that's amazing and almost a little creepy how accurate it is. So we looked him up, and it was dead on as well. And that, to me, was the first introduction of showing someone live who's about to send a follow-up email how to speak to them and get a general idea of what fits into their paradigm more accurately, speaking to their world when you're connecting to them. So that's my first experience of it on the court.
And that sounds pretty common. It was very similar to my own first experiences with it. I mean, it was more of a discovery rather than an invention by intention in the beginning. So I got kind of creeped out with how accurate you could get the personality detection algorithms.
So I think that's probably one of the main things that we hear from when we tell folks about this. I'm like, oh, well, what if you had an application that could tell you exactly how to word that email correctly so that way they respond? And they're like, that's creepy. How do I do it? Yeah. I know that I was using it, so I've used it a few times just to make sure that that I was properly communicating and based on that person's personality. Because whether it's in sales or it's in marketing, just really. We can make a lot of assumptions on how to communicate with somebody, but I think if you can nail their personality without really having to know them all that well, I think a tool that helps us do that would be very helpful for learning more about those contacts as time goes on.
So. That's the goal, yeah.
Well, Drew, to me, this is what we do in the real world. We work to. I view it as being, if I meet someone in person, I need to start understanding their world and modify my communication so it effectively is going to be heard by them. And I see this as a very respectful thing. Years ago, I became a neurolinguistic practitioner and really learned how to enter people's world. Of course, I need to do it in an ethical way with an ethical system, but it got me out of some pretty tough binds on the road in very rural areas where I need to develop rapid rapport for my own safety. And this is like a digital version almost of this.
Yeah, I mean, it uses, at the core, you're talking about empathy. It's just trying to understand another person at a deep level, and that's ultimately a really productive thing and can build stronger and healthier relationships. So that's really the whole purpose of the product.
Drew, can you share a little bit about, you said it was a discovery, like an accidental discovery, and I'm always curious when that happens, what's the backstory there? Can you share a little bit of the backstory and how it came to be?
Yeah, I mean, it was an idea. It wasn't like all of a sudden this just happened. I was coming off my last company and became a really big believer in disc profiles because I had started using them for management and hiring, and I realized, wow, when you understand people on this level, it really legitimately makes communication a lot better. So I was coming off of that, and at the same time really diving into natural language processing on the technology end. Really out of curiosity, I knew I wanted to do something, searching for a new project to pursue, and using natural language processing to make predictions is something that really just interested me. So because I was studying both of those at the same time, it just converged, and I started taking a look at LinkedIn profiles, and I had just the hypothesis that you could detect what someone was like in person based on their writing style. So it was really just a guess, and then after a few months of experimenting with it, get closer and closer until I realized that if you search for certain patterns between people that I could validate their personality, like I knew what they're like, and just find certain patterns in their writing style and the words they used and just how they communicated, I could correlate them with each other. And you can use the patterns from people you know to anticipate how you can communicate with people you don't know. And that's the core concept underlying in the algorithms, and got it to the point where it's about 80 to 85% accurate. And when I was showing people in the first version of the product, I mean, I saw firsthand that whole viral sharing, just that whole behavior happen. I would show people on my laptop, they would pick up my laptop and go to the other side of the room to show their friend because it was so creepy. And at that moment, I just thought, wow, I guess that's what a shareable product looks like. I can't not pursue this as a business. So I just dove into it, and that was the end of 2014, early 2015.
It's awesome.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
Cool.
That is true sharing, right? When you pick up the laptop and bring it across. I mean, that's like shareables.
Viral sharing.
Yeah.
That's very, very true product validation. So I'm glad you decided to continue with it because we've said it's a pretty useful tool here. So from a what are some? Well, why don't you give us a kind of an idea of like how a user would use this? We know that some of the listeners may not be aware, but you have the plugin for Gmail, for LinkedIn, and things like that. So can you walk us through just like your typical user experience with it?
Yeah, we have. I would say three main use cases. This is not really broken up by role, but really just more what they hope to get out of the product. So there's this massive amount of people with a social media presence now, and they want to learn more about themselves. So that is the first user we serve. People want to learn more about their own personality. The same reason they fill out personality tests. Crystal just makes that a whole lot easier, pretty fun, and then allows them to learn about themselves and other people, and just gives you a very good enlightening experience in that end. And that's for consumers. That's what we give away. So we have a mission to help everybody understand themselves better. That's the first level of Crystal. And then the second is, now that you have this understanding of yourself and even an understanding of disc profiles and how you can understand people, We want our users to look at other people through this lens. We're essentially winning them over to our worldview. And that means using Crystal for one-to-one communication. So for salespeople and recruiters, mostly, they're having conversations often with people they don't know. And those conversations are very important because it's their livelihood. So they rely on Crystal for writing better emails, having an overview before they go into a meeting, plugging in with their calendar, plugging into their CRM system or LinkedIn, and it tells them the best way to communicate with somebody even if they don't know them. So if it's someone that they should go in really direct, get straight to the bottom line and hammer home the 3 core points, they're going to do that. Or if it's somebody that you really need to warm up with just some chit-chat, you have to get to know each other for 15 minutes before you actually start talking about business. That's a really important thing to know beforehand. So one-to-one communication, that's the second level. And then the third level is not the communication part of it, but actually matching people and providing relationship advice. Because different DISC profiles interact with the other ones in very unique ways, but very predictable ways. So we know that if you're in a large company and your boss is a specific DISC type and you are one, we can, with a really reasonable degree of confidence, tell you the likely conflicts that are going to emerge in that relationship and help you work more productively together. That's the third level. It's more of the third party looking at organizational behavior and how people relate to each other.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Love where you're going with this. Now, there's a book, Know Your Strengths or something. There's another test on that. I wish I could remember what it was. But are you working with the DISC people directly on this, or just not?
There are no DISC people.
Oh,
DISC
okay.
DISC is a public domain.
Oh, it is.
Framework that was developed in the 1920s by a man named William Marston. He was actually the same guy that developed Wonder Woman and the first lie detector, I believe. He's like a Renaissance man. Just developed DISC, and now there are several large companies that use DISC and they sell DISC training, and there's a few that have some very standardized DISC assessments,
right?
Which are those are known as the DISC companies, but they don't own DISC.
I see. That's fascinating. So this I believe traces all the way back to some of Jungian's work, doesn't it?
I think you look at all these personality frameworks, they all really kind of say the same thing. It's
right.
Just different words applied to them.
Sure. Excellent. I'm interested in, are you working with some machine learning on this? Because this looks like a fantastic method. I know just enough to hurt myself in this topic, but machine learning systems with this, because you're going to start getting patterns. It'd be cool if you had something monitoring the new patterns that occur with it.
Yeah, machine learning is what contributes to the increase, it's how we increase the accuracy of our algorithms and also increase the breadth of the profiles. So just for example, we're constantly taking user input. So if you look at your profile in Crystal right now, you can provide input and say something's accurate or not. We get thousands of those per day. So based on the user feedback, it's essentially taking reality and putting it into our own assumptions. And over time, we know, okay, it looks like people keep saying this attribute is wrong. That's where the machine learning can correct course and get. So when you continue to put more data in it, it gets smarter over time. I mean, it's not artificial intelligence. It's really just a very, very large, very large database and some active learning. But it's getting better.
It's really defining more discrete personas, I guess, right? And which ones work together and how they work together. Is that right?
Yeah, and also just reading more unstructured text. So that's a big part of it.
I was thinking of Jung and also the Enneagram. That's another thing that has very long-term roots. I don't know if you ever looked at it, but you might enjoy it.
Yeah.
Where it has not just what you are, but where you can kind of evolve to. and
Yeah.
personalities? I mean, many people stay the same and don't change at all, but if you make an effort to improve,
Yeah, I mean, we nerd out over that stuff all the time over here, just because I think we're all wired that way. But I do think we do have an advantage in that we don't come from a psychological background. Everybody on our team, we don't. It's not like we've got formal training in psychology or have a PhD or anything like that. It's really just from the practical knowledge and research. And I think that really plays out in our product. You see a lot of products that are geared towards personality and psychographic segmentation, and they get very, very technical, very academic very quickly because it's oftentimes created in that academic setting. Whereas Crystal has really just been created purely from the practical elements to this social science. Therefore, its use is very, very practical and doesn't get academic at all. I mean, so when you talk about all of these different frameworks, it's fun and useful to explore them and the impact it could have on Crystal, but at the end of the day, we're not selling to people that want the most advanced, most accurate personality assessment. We're selling to people that want to have better conversations and healthier relationships.
I love that, Drew, and I just want to remind you that's where science started. You know, though someone will say, I've done some work, and they'll go, well, that's just anecdotal data. I go, I'm sorry, that's what all the original scientists started with, and where all the greatest things that you built your academic castles on did. And someone one time said, an entrepreneur finds a problem to solve and then solves it. An academic is exploring possible things, and then when they find a solution, they see if they can fit it. Both have their value, but they're very different. And so I just want to hats off to you, because I think that's where the raw passion and drive and the real frontiers are driven from, that area where you're going, we got to make results, because if we don't, our degrees are not going to give us a benefit. I'm not discounting the other, but it's a different tone, and I personally love it. Elyse, we'll let you chime in, questions or comments that come up.
Yeah, well, I was kind of sitting here wondering, I mean, you talk about your own team at Crystal, and I'm assuming you use your own application in the process of bringing someone on, so I'd love to hear, is there like a recent example of how you used some of the predictive technology about how people will interact with each other, either during the hiring process or onboarding process? I'm just kind of putting myself in the shoes of maybe a sales manager who's listening and thinking about, how could I use this? Is there anything like that comes to mind?
Well, we're in an interesting phase as a company. We're growing quickly, so at the moment, I just hired 2 more people, and then we've got 4 other open jobs right now. So I am pretty much a almost full-time recruiter, and I haven't really been in that position in a while. So it's been a very good opportunity for me to kind of eat our own dog food and see how Crystal works in this context. And strictly from that, I've gotten a lot of product ideas and see where it can go and help build teams. But on the surface, just with the knowledge of DISC and already knowing the DISC types of the types of personalities on our team existing now, I know where the gaps are. For example, I know that our team we're very technical, made up of mostly engineers, and even the people that aren't engineers are very analytical and technically minded. So we have a lot of C. If you're to look into the DISC profiles on our team, a ton of it. We, however, we lack some I and D. So I know that, yes, I'm looking for these specific people, a business development rep, a head of sales, a head of product, and a UX UI developer. I know that I'm looking for these job titles and for the specific skills. But on top of that, I also know that I really need to balance out our team a little bit in terms of personality, because we're a little unbalanced in C at the moment, so we can really, we can debate about things, and we can be very analytical and just like intensely focused on metrics and making sure everything is accurate. But at the same time, if that outweighs I and D, it can hold you back. You can be over analytical and not take enough risk. So me being a natural DI with a little bit of C, I understand it, but I can't be the only one in the room. So in the latest hire, I mean, we just hired a new business development rep, and he has a good amount of D. It's his primary. So it's definitely it's a soft science, because it's not like I had a very specific requirement for a type of person, but I just have this existing knowledge of where our team has gaps, and I know that over these next 5, 6 roles that come into the team, I need to balance that out with different types of personalities on top of the hard skills.
That's such an important application. I work with sales managers all the time who are, they're in that hiring process. They're struggling with getting the right balance on their team. And so few of them look to what is that personality assessment saying? How are they going to interact with the rest of the team? And then sometimes they're surprised when somebody comes on board and ruffles feathers or isn't the right fit. But it's like if you took that extra step to simply really look at, are they going to plug the holes? How are they going to interact with the rest of the group? You're going to save yourself so much time on the back end because you're ensuring that it's a better fit. So I love the application of it for that particular piece, just the hiring piece alone.
Yeah, it's also just really fun. Like just because I've been on the recruiting end, building these products theoretically, getting feedback from people and not using it myself, and now I really am starting to see the value of Crystal and being, having that initial wave of excitement that I haven't felt in a while about my own product because I'm so used to looking at it. But when you see it actually play out and result in a good decision, it's just very validating, very cool, fun to share and talk about. So.
Yeah, now I was using the matching technology to see how I would work with a former affiliate partner of mine who she's also very high D, very driven, and it was like, these ladies are going to need someone to balance them out. They're both going to want to lead. You're going to have to basically to calm them both down, and it was hilarious because like, that is it. We are both going to want to be in control of this project. We're both going to want to drive on it. We're going to need someone to come in and kind of bring us back down to earth and talk details, and it was hilarious to read because it's so true. It's so true. So I think it's fun, and I love that application too.
It's great to hear.
Drew, in our social selling training, we talk about in social listening 3 pieces of information: welcome information, useful information, and questionable information. So, for example, welcome would be, I noticed, Drew, on your LinkedIn profile that you played rugby in college. I mean, you put that out there for me to know.
Definitely not on my LinkedIn profile.
And no, I know, and something like that, exactly. And then useful to me is the area of things that you have access to, but it's not going to be something you immediately bring forward. And then questionable might be they have their Facebook profile is more public than they realize, and there's some very personal stuff in there that they don't know the world can see. That's what I'd call a little bit more questionable. And I just thought I'd throw those out and see where do you think Crystal knows falls in, because it is true when you first get it, there's a little, oh my gosh, do they know that much? And I always tell people, look, Facebook, Google, and the NSA has so much on you already, you might as well make some money on this stuff and use it to your benefit in an ethical way. So would you kind of comment on that?
Well, yeah, people make a lot of assumptions when they hear about what we do. A lot of false assumptions.
Yeah.
Like they think we're somehow hacking their email, reading their emails, and telling other people things about their communication style by their own emails, which just isn't true. I mean, we're really only using public data and then data that is, input into our website with complete consent. So there's a lot of I think, yeah, there's those false assumptions that get made about Crystal itself, and it's I guess in that category, it should be welcome and useful. I absolutely recommend people to tell people that they're using Crystal. I've seen sales reps actually send relationship advice page to a client for a meeting, just so they can understand. So it's not just one-sided, because Crystal's way more powerful when empathy is two-sided. So they can send the relationship page, so before the meeting they both understand the communication style, and then they can have a more productive meeting. And you can imagine how, it's kind of like 1 + 1 = 3 when both people understand the communication style of the other. So I think it's a very productive class of information to have and know that somebody is using with you.
Excellent. Great.
Yeah. So as that's an interesting use case where we're having a sales rep go over and whether it's sending theirs or maybe their prospects or their customers' profile page over to them. I think that's an interesting use case. But since launching and getting more and more users, are there any other additional wow, I'm kind of surprised they started using it like that. Like maybe you've heard from other users that maybe they're using it differently than you actually intended for them to use it?
Well, it's pretty clear we do a lot of user analytics. We understand how people use our product and, a ton of granular detail. And it's not so surprising, just kind of funny, but people use it romantically all the time. So whether it's looking up their spouse, or somebody who they're interested in dating to try to I guess figure out how to attract them. It's clearly not meant for that, but with the power of the personality data, hey, if it works, it works.
So I wonder if there's discussions of you integrating with Tinder.
We've gotten several inbound requests from dating sites that we haven't pursued.
So in that case, are you trying to stick more to the to a B2B audience, or just from a from that standard, or you said you won't go to dating, or at least at this point, at least that's not part of your the business goals at this point. But is that the kind of audience that you're looking for, or kind of user base you're looking for?
Well, Crystal is much bigger than that. So if you look, it's kind of two companies in one. So Crystal, the personality platform, where anybody can learn about themselves. That's a massive consumer product. Anybody that has a presence online that wants to learn more about themselves and just access their own profile or then their friends, anybody can use that. It's helpful and provides value. Within that, we've built this SaaS company, which uses the data and the growth from that consumer side and funnels that. We try to filter out the professional communicators. And the professional communicators are the people that are in sales, recruiting, business development, management positions who rely on conversations with people they don't know that well to do their job well. And they're the ones that we're building the business around right now. So we're staying focused on them. And then maybe down the road there'll be other branches into these other very different industries where this data can be valuable. But yeah, I'm definitely of the mindset to say no to lots of good things, say yes to one great thing.
Very good, very good. Well, that's good. It's good to hear. Having worked for a couple startups myself, understanding exactly the customer you're trying to go after, that's important. I'm glad you guys have discovered that. So and that definitely shows. Not that I would be using Tinder after being married for 13 years. So it's I've never.
But you could use it with your wife and maybe improve.
Yeah, no, I don't even want to. I don't want. No. Oh, you definitely use Crystal Knows maybe to help out with that.
Yeah, relationships over time need. Keep them fresh.
She's used more than just Facebook, though, right? So on that point, we got a question here about how do you define a public personality database? I'm not sure which one of us put this into the show notes, but I think we should kind of touch on that. I think you alluded that you started to look at LinkedIn profiles and writing styles from there, but I guess what other social networks are you looking at, or what other publicly available data are you bringing into your database and processing?
You can safely share.
Don't share any secret sauce or anything like that.
It's the equivalent of. So what Crystal is doing is automating the process of you just Googling someone, reading over all of their information and trying to figure out with your intuition how this person is. So it's really using data sources. Just imagine if you do a Google search, try to find someone and identify them by first name, last name, company, school, location, anything that you can identify a unique individual by. So we try to parse out sentences that they have written, and we can safely identify as a specific person. So that's where the public data comes from, and then more and more our database is building with actual assessment data. So people signing up for Crystal, filling out personality assessment, and then upvoting and downvoting things on their own profile. longer term, that's where the growth in our data and where our database becomes more universal. That's where it comes from.
Well, just a side note, we're users of a product called Nimble, which is a social CRM. Hopefully someday maybe we'll get you both on the show. John from Nimble, have you had a chance to chat with him yet, or vice versa? I did a little introduction on Twitter once.
I have not yet.
Because he's a real thought leader as well. You might enjoy chatting with him a minute, because their goal is, why when you put a name in a CRM should you have to add all the data? Why can't it go out and look for that data? Well, your product is the deep dive on that as well. So that's just something that popped in my head. I thought I'm a networker, so I love introducing good people together. Maybe we can make. He's had a few shows with us. You can hear some of those as well.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Greg, you're looking over the beautiful site there.
Yeah,
and,
it's been a little while since I've actually
gone to the site directly.
I have all the plugins and all, so I just haven't been into the site directly. And I was also taking a look at my DISC assessment I took a number of years ago. So I guess one of the things I was kind of thinking about here is that if with my DISC assessment I took back, I think it was in 2008. How do you see not necessarily just from the DISC assessment, but how personalities kind of change over time? If that's even possible, or how you keeping the information up to date?
Well, it's definitely possible. I mean, people report that their personality changes regularly, and then most people have a very different natural versus adaptive DISC profile. I know mine is very different. In personal life, I'm really an SI. In business, I'm a DI. So that definitely happens. And the way we keep Crystal updated is by keeping the database just like living and breathing. So we're constantly, sourcing data and analyzing. So the profile does update. Most of them do monthly, and from the information that people provide. So when they provide assessments and upvotes and downvotes on their profiles, that also contributes to an ongoing accurate profile.
Yeah, I was actually now just went back to my my profile here on crystals, and I remember the first time I used it at 95% accuracy, and now I'm down to 88. So it looks like I got some work to do to get it back up there.
Yeah, might come from some votes or something. I don't know.
Maybe just some additional data sources you may have been bringing into it. So that's interesting. It's good to see that that it's continuously being updated. So what if I guess we hear a little bit on about how people have a tendency to kind of lean one way when they're posting information, whether maybe it's on Facebook and they're always posting happy information or happy posts or inspirational posts, or maybe they're always having political discussions or things like that. Not you. My father. It's just like,
some people are a much more obnoxious person online than they are in person too. Yeah. There seems to be skew of personality on the web, and any comment on how you adapt to that? Because I have a friend where I'm going, you're not as rude in person as you were on those posts on Facebook with your name attached.
Yeah. There's a certain level of that which we're never really going to be able to capture with pure natural language processing. Right. Because we're reading the personality that's being written down. So if you've modeled yourself as a completely different personality on the internet than you really are, we're probably going to pick up the internet personality. Mm-hmm. But there is a difference between implicit and explicit identification. And what I mean by that is Crystal is looking for both what you write and how you write. So it's very easy to fake what you write. It's a lot harder to fake how you write. So that I'd add that as the caveat for it, because adjusting how you write is possible. It's definitely a lot harder to do.
That's good. Elyse?
That's a good perspective.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because you're right. We can, in areas of understanding if people are lying, they can lie with their words, but it's hard to lie with their body, is a terminology. And so what you're saying is structuring the anatomy of their language reveals something similar to, I see that analogous to the real world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's easy for people to lie with their mouths, but harder with their bodies and their actions.
Yeah, picture it like speaking with a different accent, really.
Mm-hmm. That's fascinating. Elyse, we'll let you chime in if you have anything next.
Yeah, I guess my one kind of takeaway, one of the things that I was really interested to learn coming into this is just how the heck this all works. Like, what's the science, what's the algorithm behind it? And I think that's really what we're tapping into here. And so I'm just kind of sitting here thinking, okay, so for somebody who's like a D, for example, I'm assuming you'd be looking for short, sweet, to the point. Their sentence structure is shorter. They're using bullet points. Am I kind of on the right track there? Is that part of?
Yeah, you're on the right track. Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. And then I was comparing myself to my boyfriend on Crystal to see. We only have 45% similarity score. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, the opposites attract, right?
I don't know.
We're going to go with that.
I can tell you, Elyse, I'm a little older. I've been with people much more like me, and it's a train wreck. I'm so grateful my sweetheart is radically different with similar values. So that's an example even there.
This is so interesting.
Another thing I want to talk about, Drew, and I want to volunteer this, is to me in relationship building, resolving conflicts is an important piece. And I just want to own I made kind of a big mistake with our show of giving you the wrong date the first. So I'm confessing my sin here, and then working to do my best to what I call clean it up from a mistake I made. And I think that's to me, an important thing that isn't always talked about in relationship building. You know, when, you know, I have a personal value, an apology if I broke my word is not enough. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's just a personal thing. I love your comments on it, and I'm glad you got the little something I sent. So,
yeah, well,
you on it.
I mean, I think, yeah, there's I guess there's no apology, but I think chocolate-covered fruit generally does the trick for me. So my forgiveness is not that expensive. So, but yeah, I mean, usually the best stories that I hear from users and customers about Crystal, and it's the times when they actually just I get unsolicited email feedback. It's either when they get through to someone that they have just been trying for a long time to get through to, and then they try using Crystal, and then finally they got the response they were looking for. But then more often it's somebody that Crystal was kind of a last resort, where they said something stupid to a customer, or this just like an internal conflict boiled over, or they're just really not getting along with their boss. These problems that we experience because we're imperfect humans. So I've gotten lots of stories like this where somebody has a problem and they look to Crystal just because they have no other real option. They're like, all right, I'm at the end here. What else do I do? And they realize that rather than the other person being malicious or having, you know, poor motivations, it's really just a misunderstanding in how both of them communicate. And ultimately, most of these interpersonal problems just boil down to failure in communication. So I don't know. I've just got a whole big list of these, you know, of these things, these individual situations that have come up, and where Crystal has played the role of this, you know, robot therapist, and kind of stand between the subjective third party and help people resolve conflict and just get along better together. So it definitely happens.
Yeah, and apparently you liked our initial video we did. Now I want to be honest, that was Elise's idea to make the video, or no, she told me she did it. I said we need to do it to get Drew on the show. I'm running out of ideas. He's busy, and so, but I did not do my homework to fully check out the Crystal Knows with you, and we probably could have customized the video more if we had done that. I think it was novelty got your attention.
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of email and a lot of LinkedIn things, and usually I have to ignore most of it.
Yeah.
But that was the first video request I've ever gotten, and when I said yes after that, my whole team just said, no, just hashtag social sold you. And that's it's like, yeah, they did. All right, they did. I just got hashtag social sold.
It works.
It worked. We're fans. We're good people to be connected to. We have a leading show. You'll get a few clients out of it. So we're big on the concept of win-win when you ask for people's time and effort. It's one of our core values as a team.
Yep. So I think we got one more question here. I think we want to kind of go over, and then we can we might be able to wrap up from here. But so looking into the future of Crystal Knows, what are some of the applications of your technology that you could potentially see, but they're not in place yet?
So when I described the third level of Crystal, as far as like building teams with chemistry and using it for organizational behavior and those types of uses, that is largely, I mean, it's not really in production. We're very, very focused on the one-to-one communication right now. So in the future, if you look at what Crystal is under the surface, it's this giant database and graph of like every person's relationship, even if they don't know the other person. So Martin, we could take you and pit you against millions of other people and predict how you would relate to them, even if you don't know them yet. Mm-hmm. That's a really, really powerful thing. And over time, that's where we hope to build the value of our company. So you're going to see, not in the very short term, but longer term, Crystal can be that, I don't know, I hate using buzzwords, so I won't, but that relationship source for people that you don't know yet. I think it can be really powerful.
As you're talking about that, I just, it flashed in my head. I was like, man, what if you could just take and upload your leads list out of Salesforce into Crystal, or have Crystal scan it and then kind of sort leads based on that inside your CRM. Sort it to the best person that aligns with the personalities of your sales team. I think it just even if you were to expand on that or something like that, I think that right there is a really incredible tool. Yeah,
instead of low-hanging fruit, people you would probably be able to serve the best. I think that's a real win-win. That's what I hear, Drew, because if you have a communication massive mismatch, it'll be a little bit more you have to move to be able to synchronize, and offering that that sounds like a neat resource. I have a friend, Dr. Thomas Griggs, that does a lot of work. Maybe I'll try to connect you with him on understanding individual level, systematic, and on the way up across the board, and how it changes when you look at the way companies act as full groups and systems and interacting. But this is neat. I want to take a moment and just say, is there anything else you think would be useful for people in the B2B social selling that you've learned, tips or anything in general? Just open for wisdom, because our audience is generally business-to-business sales professionals, either currently using or learning to use social selling as a tool in their sales process.
General wisdom. Well, I didn't prepare any, so, and I don't know how much wisdom I have. But I would say this might sound self-serving. It is self-serving.
You're allowed to be.
Ultimately, people really, really usually don't care all that much about most like cold outreach or things that come across, just because everybody is emailing now, and as a result, email has become incrementally less effective, and you kind of have to use extremes now, kind of like you did with that video. To me, that was an extreme step that finally got my attention. I was like, all right, these guys are serious. Let's do it. And I have to do the same thing now when I send my emails. I'm going to use Crystal for it to determine the disc profile of the person I'm sending the email to, but I really go extreme with it. Like if someone's a D, I've gotten to the point now, even I barely use an introduction in the email, and I'll just like send them a sentence. And it's a very different looking, because the CEO of a company is used to sending emails like that. They are never used to getting emails. You know, if you're a CEO of a big company, you're getting an email all the time that says, "Hello, Mr. So-and-so," or "Mrs. So-and-so," and then 3 paragraphs qualifying everything I'm saying and making sure that I cover my, like dot my I's and cross my T's. And I don't know, I use extreme personalization in email right now, and I've found very, very good results of it in terms of both like quantity and quality of response. So even beyond Crystal, beyond personality data, extreme personalization is becoming more and more worth the time to put into it.
That's great. I think that sounds pretty wise to me. At least, you know, there's a quote of a wise man said, or a man being wise said. You can take either one of those. I'll say that was great input. Well, we want to, Elyse, we'll let you have another word, then we'll start wrapping it up. And this was just fantastic, Drew. I hope you enjoy it, and I think you really gave a lot of great insight, and look forward to having you on the show again. Elyse?
Yeah, I'm pumped. I cannot wait to get on the phone with my coaching clients and start walking them through the process of how to use this before all their appointments. So I always like it when I look good when I bring something new to a call. So I'm excited because I get to look good now by bringing this to them. So thank you for that.
Welcome.
I'm very excited for it.
Great.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I've been actually kind of perusing through here.
He's just obsessing over your site here.
I'm actually looking at how you and I compare, and apparently we have 66% similarity. So,
I knew I liked you.
Yeah, there you go. But it says here that you like to change quickly, and I like to do thoughtful planning. So maybe that won't work out so well.
But I want to say the other value here is looking for compliments, Drew, and to me. Sometimes me working with people that I may not get along personally well gets the best business work going too. So it's an important piece.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely recommend that our social selling audience, any of those folks, to consider adding Crystal Knows to their social selling stack and making sure that they use it to improve communications like you've intended for your product to be designed to do. I'm grateful for your service. For the product itself, it's helped a number of times with sending out a couple of emails while I was on the trial. But I went back, and it looks like I need to update my disc assessment as well. So I'm going to actually go through that step, and we'll put some of those results in the show notes for this episode. But so why don't you just let's go ahead and wrap up. Let us know where we can find you. Where is it best for people to learn more about you if they want to connect with you? Good.
Yeah.
Well, you can sign up for Crystal on crystalknows.com, and you get a whole bunch of free contacts to try the service out in all of its different aspects. And if you want to reach me directly, send me a very short email to drew@crystalknows.com. The shorter the email is, the more likely I am to respond to it.
That might have been what the problem was before.
It was too long. Yeah. I didn't do the homework. That's good.
Yeah.
We learn from our mistakes too.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, very good. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we'll get you more information about how to if you want to share the show with your audience. But thank you very much, and have a great day.
Yep. This is Martin Brossman,
Greg Hyer,
and Elyse Archer.
And you've been listening to Linking into Sales.
Well, actually, you've been listening to the Social Selling Podcast by Linking into Sales. You can come out and find us on YouTube at youtube.com/linkingsales. Don't forget to follow our page on LinkedIn or Facebook or Google Plus or everywhere else we are. I think our business has its own personality as well. So
that's right.
We're about to run that through Crystal Knows. But anyways, y'all have a great weekend. Enjoy the fun.
And our training site.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I almost forgot about that. Don't forget to go out to socialselling.training and get your social selling training. We have 2 free courses out there for you right now where you can learn how to set up your LinkedIn and Twitter profile so that way they're customer facing, helping you get the most success from social selling.
Great. Take care.
Bye, guys.